out on a new journey, following the tracks of Victorian entrepreneurs and travellers, along railways that were the arteries to industrial England's Black Country heartland, and from there onto the verdant beauties of Wales. On today's stretch, I'll meet the remarkable craftsman behind the Victorian furniture trade. My dear Bodger, I believe that I have made a bodge. Discover how George Bradshaw helped to save Britain's canal heritage. He inspired railway travellers in the 19th century and canal travellers in the 20th. And see Shakespeare through the eyes of a 19th century railway tourist.
Our revels now are ended. These are actors.
Bravo. Starting in the rolling Chiltern Hills, my guidebook will lead me through Oxfordshire and Warwickshire towards the industrial centres of the Midlands. Turning west, I'll experience the stunning Severn Valley Railway en route to mid-Wales and the Victorian seaside resort of Aberystwyth. Starting in High Wycombe, this leg takes me northwest to one of the Victorians' favourite spa towns before heading for the heart of Shakespeare country. My first stop will be High Wycombe, seated deep in the Chiltern Hills. My Bradshaw says Wycombe is a borough in Buckinghamshire on the Wick. In the vicinity are many corn and paper mills, but the arrival of the trains here in 1854 helped to furnish the town with a new industry. Trains puffed into High Wycombe courtesy of the Wycombe Railway, which linked the town to Brunel's famous Great Western. Today, it's a popular commuter town, and indeed, even in the 19th century, the area attracted those who wanted to live at a distance from the big smoke. I've always wanted to come to High Wycombe Station, seriously, because near here was the country home of one of my great heroes, the Conservative Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, who had a very good relationship with Queen Victoria, mainly because he was a great flatterer. By his own admission, he laid it on with a trowel, and Queen Victoria did him the extraordinary honour of visiting her Prime Minister at his home, and imagine how gratified he would have been when he received Queen Victoria at this very railway station. When she arrived here in 1877, the Queen was collected by carriage and driven past an eye-catching display, a giant arch constructed from wooden chairs. It was built in honour of an industry which thrived here in the 19th century, thanks to a very special kind of craftsman. I'm going down to the woods today to get a big surprise, the exceptional tale of the Chiltern Chair Bodgers. Hello.
Hello, Jude. Bit of a stranger in these woods.
Ha, I'm sorry to interrupt your work. Oh, that's fantastic. Sadly, there's no time for me to sit around. I'm continuing my journey along the Chiltern Main Line, heading northwest. I've crossed the border from Buckinghamshire into Oxfordshire, where I'm seeking out the roots of Britain's Victorian prosperity. Next stop for me is Banbury. Bradshaw's tells me that the navigable canal from Coventry to Oxford passes by and is conveyed through a hill by a tunnel 3/4 of a mile in length. George Bradshaw began his career by mapping canals, and he may have been upset that his beloved railways eventually put them out of business. In the late 18th century, Britain's canals helped to launch the Industrial Revolution, transporting coal and other materials faster than ever before. Banbury soon found itself on an important route from the Midlands to London. I've come to Tooley's historic boatyard to hear the story from director Matthew Armitage. Matthew.
Oh, Michael, hello.
Good to see you.
And you, yes.
A boatyard more than 220 years old. That must be some kind of record.
Yeah, it's something pretty special, isn't it?
Medieval times is a closely guarded secret. But he's brought a sample to my hotel for me to try. Trying to find out what all the fuss is about. Oh, yeah. Buttery, spicy, fruity. full of Eastern promise.
That's what they're like.
A delicious end to a long day of Victorian railway travel. An excellent night's sleep thanks to the Banbury cakes. Or was it the Banbury ale? I'm now continuing my journey through central England, and my next destination was clearly a Victorian favourite. My first stop is Leamington Spa, which my Bradshaw says is now, though still small and picturesque, become a large, handsome town, better paved, lighted and regulated than any other town of its size. Few places possess so many attractions as this highly favoured town. There must be something in the water. Leamington Spa owed its fame to its mineral water springs, which from the late 1700s were recommended as a cure for all sorts of ills.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. By the 1850s, the railways were bringing wealthy Victorians here in their droves. The curative properties of the waters of Leamington Spa are, according to my Bradshaws, resorted to by vast numbers of invalids and a constant succession of fashionable visitors. But I was struck by this reference. Amongst Leamington's numerous attractions are a splendid tennis court and racquet ground attached to an elegant pile of buildings. I think a visit there would serve me well. The Leamington Spa Tennis Court Club was founded in 1846, when lawn tennis as we know it had yet to be invented. Mark, good morning.
Morning, welcome to Leamington Tennis Court Club.
Thank you.
Come through.
Very spacious and very Victorian. The Victorian gentlemen of leisure who came here played the ancient indoor game of real tennis. Mark Seigneur is one of a select few who play it today. A real tennis court is just...
Yes, you're welcome, and membership is still open.
Thank you very much. I'd love to linger to develop my backhand, but it's time for me to take my last train for today. I'm making a short hop southwest on the trail of a national icon. My Bradshaw's provides a clue as to my next destination, where his first infant plays Sweet Shakespeare's Son, where the last accents faltered on his tongue, and to which the genius of one man has given immortality. In other words, Stratford-upon-Avon, which by any other name would be a sweet. The entry for Stratford in my Victorian guidebook dedicates nearly 2 whole pages to the Bard, and judging by this busy train, he's just as popular with modern railway tourists. You headed for Stratford?
Yes, I am.
Would I be right in detecting that you're not from the United Kingdom?
I'm not.
Where are you from?
I'm from the United States of America.
Where are you from?
I am from Peru.
And Shakespeare's quite well known in Peru?
Yes.
Can you do any quotations?
Ser or no ser?
To be or not to be?
To be or not to be, yeah.
To be?
To be? Oh.
Do you know how that finishes? To be...
To be or not to be?
There we are.
Romeo, Romeo, or not Romeo.
Any more?
No.
It seems that these days Stratford attracts Shakespeare pilgrims from across the world. There's no option but to join the throng. The crowds getting off this train are absolutely amazing, and it's like the Tower of Babel. There are so many languages being spoken on this train, and they're all here for a man who died 400 years ago. Shakespeare's emergence as a global icon was well underway in Bradshaw's day. The Victorians' passion for the immortal poet shines through in my guidebook. It describes how, in Stratford, we tread the very ground that he has trod 1,000 times and feel as he has felt. And to do just that, it sends readers to the old-fashioned timbered house where Shakespeare was born. Here Victorian admirers went to extreme lengths to preserve Stratford's Shakespearean heritage. I'm hearing the story from Dr. Anjna Chauhan. My Bradshaws tells me that Shakespeare's birthplace...
The thin air.
Very moving indeed. So, I've been privileged to hear one version, and George Bradshaw would have heard another. On today's journey, my guidebook has shown me how our 19th century forebears helped to shape many things, from furniture to our appreciation of theatre. Ever since I sat in that Windsor chair in High Wycombe, Queen Victoria has never been far from my mind. During her reign, there was a revival of interest in both real tennis and in Shakespeare. Having been bashed about the tennis court, I've now trodden the boards in Stratford-upon-Avon. So all's well that ends well. On the next stretch, I'll learn how the railways helped pen making to boom in Birmingham.
It was a trade that brought writing to the masses, really.
Hear the chilling tale of one of 19th century Britain's most notorious murderers.
30,000 turned up for his execution. They had special trains laid on from Bristol, from Manchester and from London.
And sample the delicacies concocted in a Victorian kitchen. Look at that, wow, that's got a real wobble factor on it, hasn't it?